This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian.
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit, Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Oh, snap. That's right. It's Backbreaker. Dylan Broda from Toronto, Ontario, Canada right now, living in Helsinki, Finland, and I'm here with Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today, the trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with Backbreaker, Dylan Broda.
Oh, snap. That's right. It's Backbreaker. Dylan Broda from Toronto, Ontario, Canada right now, living in Helsinki, Finland, and I'm here with Wrestling with Entertainment. What's going on over there with you?
I'm good. I'm currently in California.
All right. So time difference is a big issue here, but you know, you're keeping me up late and I'm waking you up early, so what can we do? Hey. We're still talking about the good stuff, which is pro wrestling.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, where is the Backbreaker Breaking Backs next event-wise?
Next backs I'm going to be breaking is actually going to be in Tallinn, Estonia, with the largest video game convention, a whole bunch of sweaty nerds packed in the biggest movie theater in Estonia, and basically they play a bunch of games on the movie, the big huge screens, and they've got all kinds of entertainment lined up. And for I believe it's the 5th year in a row, I will be wrestling there. No ring, no rules. It's just an all-out brawl all the way through the movie theater. Pins and submissions, anything goes. Last year we did the first ever, which was my idea, by the way, the first ever Super Mario Brothers Tornado Tag match, where all over the movie theater there was these question mark boxes scattered around with some kind of weapon inside them. Whoever got it first got to use it.
Dylan, you sound really far away.
Okay. Let me just change my headphone.
Is this any better for you?
That's perfect.
All right. Let's go with that.
So you were saying the Super Mario Tornado match, question mark boxes around the arena. Well,
yeah, we'll call it an arena, big ass movie theater in Tallinn, Estonia, and yeah, there were things like Angry Birds stuffed with big bricks, and there was Minecraft swords with thumbtacks glued onto them. There was a Pokemon ball that didn't work. Nothing came out of it, so I was pretty ticked off about that. But I did hire a kid to dress up as Pikachu and smash my opponent with a chair. So these kind of things is what you can expect. It's called Mängu de Öö, this weird Estonian language. Basically, it's an all-night gaming convention that where the wrestling, I think, probably are the match. I'll be breaking most likely Arder, who's right now one of my tag team partners here in Finland, but I'll be breaking his back, whether he likes it or not. So, and that is actually, when this comes out, is October 16th, and I believe October 19th. So in a few days from when you're hearing this, spines are going to snap backs are going to break in Tallinn, Estonia.
Oh, snap.
Oh, snap.
And where can we find you on social media and your merchandise?
Well, I have a Pro Wrestling Tees page, so you can find me. It's oh snap, it's BACKBREAKERBRODA's crap, and you can basically just type in BACKBREAKERBRODA. You'll find me there, and currently have one sweet ass T-shirt on there, which features an image of me in the first ever Finnish barbed wire death match that happened last year at the Helsinki Metal Festival. So. It was a pretty extreme event, and so the picture is a little bit extreme on the shirt. But you know, when you're in a barbed wire body bag death match, you gotta do something cool. So I got that shirt on ProWrestlingTees.com. You can find me basically anywhere with the hashtag or @ symbol BACKBREAKERBRODA. So just type that in. I'm the only one that exists. So you'll find me Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I think I never use it, but there it is. And everything in between.
All right. And you don't have to go looking for it. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox.
Sweet.
All right. Let's get into it. You work for Slam Pro Wrestling. Can you tell us about your relationship with the company and obviously the man behind it, Starbuck?
That's right. I currently my home promotion is Slam Wrestling Finland, which is founded by the rebel Starbuck Michael Maiolati, who basically brought professional wrestling to Finland. I think it was in 2001. So he's born in Timmins, Ontario. I'm born in Toronto, Ontario. And we ended up meeting over here in Finland with kind of sharing the love for pro wrestling and the Canadian style that both him and I kind of grew up with. He was trained in Calgary at the Hart Family's Wrestling School by Lance Storm and this bruiser guy named Carl Moffat, who wrestled in Japan and as Jason the Terrible, and he was an absolute beast. I've talked to him quite a bit, and he's the real deal. But Lance showing all the technical stuff, and Starbuck learning a lot of the craft as well in Japan. So he kind of had that well-rounded wrestling background that I have been so in love with, you know, this Canadian style mixed with the Japanese style, and just, you know, old school Memphis American style, all wrapped into one good package. And when I met Starbuck, there was Fight Club Finland, or FCF Wrestling. That was the only game in Helsinki, or Finland for that matter. And I became a referee to get into the business, basically, to learn the ropes that way. And there was a split, so FCF Wrestling decided to split, and Starbuck went one way, the other people who were running FCF after went another way, and Starbuck started Slam Wrestling Finland, and I followed him because I believe in his style of wrestling. And when he had his first training camp, I jumped at the opportunity to be trained by the best in Europe, at the very least. And here I am now. I've been working mostly for Slam Wrestling Finland for the last 4 years as a professional wrestler.
All right. And things are kind of picking up right now. As you mentioned, you are mentoring Arder. You're kind of in a friendly relationship with Lexa Valos. Can you tell us about this new faction you're creating?
Well, you see, I have had the Black and Green Mean Machine as my faction, my group that have kind of, I guess, circled around me, because I think a lot of people can see what I bring to the table in pro wrestling, and my philosophy on pro wrestling, that I think is right now very close to being a lost art. And I do believe it's one of the martial arts. You can go on and on about how it's entertainment, which it definitely is. Same as ice hockey, baseball, basketball, boxing. It's all a form of entertainment. And pro wrestling is one of the most unique forms of entertainment in the entire world. And I think that people like, when I see a young athlete like Arder, who is from Estonia, one of the only two wrestlers from Estonia. The other is Mikk Vainula, who I had a absolutely brutal blood feud with that ended in the barbed wire Bodybag death match.
Oh, yeah.
And but I saw in Arthur, I think he's just turned 19 or 20, and the guy is a natural-born athlete. He was a champion in amateur wrestling through Estonia, and he had a passion for pro wrestling, and that was his main goal. But there was no pro wrestling school in Estonia. And when I met him, he was quite arrogant and kind of, I would say, an idiot, and I beat his ass a few times up until the point where he finally realized what he needed to do in order to start winning. And so now I had kicked out this Finnish boy, Amy Helen, who I was mentoring, and I saw that his way was going in the wrong direction, and brought in Arder, who I think is going to be and has a big potential to be pretty much the first Estonian superstar that you'll see on worldwide TV. And that's where I would like to push him. And I know that then I will be the one responsible for his place. And I'll take all the credit I can get, for sure. So that's Arder. So be having your eyes wide open, because that kid has all the talent. And as long as he's got me there to push him, he can do anything he wants. And Lexa, she's the best female professional wrestler in Europe at the very least. She's now won her 4th championship, so currently holding 4 belts, the female belt collector of Europe. And she is pretty much single-handedly holding the European women's wrestling scene on her back. And that's the kind of person that I can see in my faction right now. And because basically what I'd like to build is a faction that can hold every single belt. I want a tag team. I want a singles in both genders. I want the women's wrestling champion of Slam Wrestling, and I have her. I have Arder, who could easily become a singles champion or a tag champion with me. And myself, I can very easily take that gold strap off of Starbuck whenever I get the chance next, whenever he'd allow for one of his homegrown talents to have a title shot, which we're definitely working on right now.
Now, is Lexa a full-blown member? Because it seemed like, while you did help her, she didn't exactly seem as grateful as she could be.
Well, that's how it goes, like Arder, he took some time to realize that he'd made the right choice. And I think, my philosophy behind a pro wrestling match or any kind of sporting contest, you have to win. There's no excuse with a loss. If you've lost, you've done something wrong. And if you haven't done everything in your power to win, then, of course, you're going to lose. So it takes some time for people to adjust to that ideology. And when they do, and when they see as Lexa has been seeing, those belts just basically falling at her feet, that smile and that acceptance will grow, and you'll see.
All right.
You'll see it, the acceptance.
Now, you mentioned it. First ever death match in Finland Pro Wrestling against Vainula. There's not a lot of first when it comes to pro wrestling nowadays. So what did it kind of mean to you to be the first death match in Finland pro wrestling history. And I mean, the rivalry between that was pretty intense to begin with.
It's true. It actually means a lot to me, and it was my stipulation that my manager at the time, Lord Coxworth, had signed. I was a bit squeamish about it, but this was something that I have wanted to do. As much as I'm a traditionalist for pro wrestling, I'm a big fan of course, Bret Hart, the Hitman, all the Hart family, Owen, of course, and that style of wrestling is something that is very near and dear to me. But then I look at guys like Terry Funk and Dusty Rhodes, you know, and this kind of gritty, nasty style that you'll do anything to win. And when I witnessed Terry Funk in these horrific death matches in Japan and in the United States, I saw a passion that I have never seen before until then. And to see a barbed wire match and have it not be just a pointless, violent display of gore, and actually see something that drew emotional, just a complete emotional reaction. And it wasn't like a gagging reaction. It was like, you know, tears welling up. It was, for me, it was just this like feeling that you get when there's just like you're watching or reading the greatest story, and you know that just feeling wells up inside you, and you kind of commit yourself to it. And Terry Funk was able to do that. Guys like Sabu have been able to do that for me. These days, I haven't seen too many death matches where they actually get a real deal emotional response, where people actually care and are, you know, having that sense of danger, and all at the same time, two guys who are, they're not in there to, I guess, they don't want to feel the pain, you know, but they want so badly the other guy to feel that pain. And that kind of story naturally built up with me and Vainula, because we don't like each other. It's not a secret here. You know, if you want to throw the kayfabe word around that doesn't apply anymore, I don't like the guy. He doesn't like me. He's in the military in Estonia defusing bombs. The guy blew his hand up twice, almost lost it. And, you know, this kind of guy, he's as tough as they come. Seriously, he's an absolute beast. Nobody hit me as hard as he's hit me, and that is as shoot as you can get. And it's because we don't like each other. So, you know, we put that stipulation there, and it was the first ever proper barbed wire body bag death match. And the idea was that we wrapped the ropes in barbed wire. We had a body bag, and you had to put your opponent in the body bag, just like a coffin match. And that was the first of its kind, at the very least in Scandinavia, and as far as I know, Europe. I'm not sure if this kind of match has been done anywhere else, at least up until that point. But in Finland, that style match, there was a few hardcore matches with a lot of blood in the past, but you wouldn't call them death matches. But this was a proper death match. I fought Vainula in the movie theaters. I fought Vainula in last man standing matches, tables matches, tornado tag team matches, all kinds of anything we could do to get a stipulation where we could just beat the living hell out of each other. And generally I came out as the victor. So, you know, we needed something to end this feud between each other. And they originally said no. I had been told no from Starbuck and the management that no, you can't do that. It's too dangerous. But there was the Helsinki Metal Festival with a bunch of extreme music. And I got a call from Starbuck one day, and he said, "Do you still want to be involved in the barbed wire match?" And I said, "Yep." And he was like, "Okay, well, here's the place that we can do it, and you're on your own." And I was forced into an ambulance after, and checked extensively. The paramedics at the festival, they had to, I guess we had paramedics with us, as you would normally do in a pro wrestling show, because anything can happen. And they had to call every paramedic on the site because of the amount of blood. And so we got all patched up, and I was sent to the ambulance. And in the end of the day, I didn't suffer any concussion, so that was a very positive thing. But a lot of permanent tattoos, let's say, that I'll live with and be proud of as well, oddly enough. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that I have two world records in pro wrestling. One I have done with this Finnish wrestler TT Suosalo, and we have got the most arm drags in 1 minute, which was 22 arm drags, and I have the world record for most professional wrestling matches wrestled in Estonia. So there you go.
Well, tell us about that world record you set with TT, because that was on TV, correct? That was
Yeah, there was a Finnish TV show called basically it's called like Record Factory. And they got a bunch of whoever really wanted to attempt any records. And we just thought, actually it was Starbucks' idea, because TT and I were the top of his class, his pro wrestling training camp. And also, we don't get along. Imagine that. But so he asked us to do as many arm drags as we possibly could in 1 minute. And I think we had to beat 18 was the kind of goal. And we got 22. And it was much harder than you'd imagine. So I definitely dare anybody to try to go against that.
You had a pretty bloody match with TT as well, correct?
That's right. We were asked to showcase professional wrestling on a K1 kickboxing gala pay-per-view event in Estonia as well, Tallinn, in the ice hall. Massive place. The ring was, I think, 22. It was a basically WWE-sized ring, but a kickboxing ring. So it was reinforced with steel pillars underneath, so the ring had no give to it whatsoever. It was just basically a wooden floor. Seems like the cops have found you there, buddy. I don't know.
I apologize.
You better pack up and go.
Things going on outside.
That's California.
Yes.
But yeah, it was pretty intense match, very wrestling oriented, a lot of chain wrestling, because TT he's a very scientific wrestler in that way. And I pinned his head off the post on the outside, and he actually got himself, because there was this little like screw that holds onto some advertising, like an advertising flag. And he got hit with that right above the eyebrow. And luckily, in a way, I'll say luckily, he didn't get it in the eye, but he did get it. Yeah, he was gushing pretty good. He gave me a good Brock Lesnar style forearm to the face, which cut me open too, because he was needing that receipt. And although I don't think anybody realized that I was bleeding, because he was bleeding so much. And he had to go, and I think he got about 6 or 7 stitches in the back. Luckily, I just needed glue to shut my cut. But when we walked to the back, as you know, pro wrestling is not taken seriously in many parts of the world. And we were first yelled at by the promoter of who's going to clean up all this fake blood.
Oh.
And we were looking at him like, what are you talking about? He's like, who's going to clean it up? And we're like, I don't know, you just use a mop and water, you should be fine. And he was like, yeah, but this sticky, gooey, fake theater stuff, it doesn't come off like that. It's going to stain everything. It's going to be brutal. What you should have told me you're going to use blood in this. And I was like, I'm like pulling my skin open. Like, look, this is, we're not using special effects here, buddy. This is real shit. So sorry if I can't swear, but I'm sure I can. It's YouTube.
Yes, you can.
But, yeah, so he got 6 stitches or so, and I got the cut glued. And when we sat down with those paramedics as well, they asked, okay, how much of this is paint and how much of this is real? And we were both just, again, dude, this is like 100% all real blood. And they were like, oh, so, so in a way we had a bonding moment, me and TT, but that was the last bonding moment we've had. So, but again, we take pro wrestling really seriously. We know there's many forms of pro wrestling. I do, definitely. And when it's to me, it's like music. If it's done well, then I'm all for it. So bloody matches, technical matches, comedy matches, whatever you want to do, I'm all for calling it in the ring and just going at it like a proper sport, and that's what I believe pro wrestling is. So, it's wonderful and very unique form of entertainment, like I've mentioned.
Well, speaking of traditional pro wrestling, you were a part of the George Hackenschmidt tournament. Obviously the original, the first acknowledged pro wrestling champion. What did that kind of mean to you to be in that tournament?
Well, it was pretty amazing in the way of learning the history, and I'm a big history buff in terms of pro wrestling, and I really love to dive way into that. And my grandfather, he set up the pro wrestling rings at the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, where there's Maple Leaf Wrestling, and that was, housed all the biggest names at the time, passed through there. And that's where my grandmother and her friends would go and whack the heels with their purses, from the aisleways and this kind of stuff. Because pro wrestling in Canada and as well as the United States and many parts of the world, it's a different thing, I think. And in Finland, the history here is only about 20 years deep, whereas in the rest of the world, I mean, George Hackenschmidt being Estonian, oddly enough, Tartu, Estonia was where he was from, and I think it was 1903, 1905 when he became the first recognized professional wrestling world champion, and and he was a big deal. He was a big deal around the whole world. Presidents wanted to be him. He was a huge thing. And I think the fact that kind of his name has been forgotten, largely forgotten in the pro wrestling world, is a tragedy. But then again, people like Starbuck, myself, and the other people involved in this tournament. The winner was Tucker from Ireland. And, we're all trying to kind of shine a light with a place like Estonia that doesn't really have a wrestling scene other than Slam Wrestling Finland or Slam Wrestling Tallinn, as it's known there. And that there is a rich history and it should be taken seriously. And trying to show people that it kind of all started over there. And I was lucky to be a part of it in a lot of ways. Of course, they put me up against Slam Wrestling Finland's first ever champion, Heimo Ukonselka, who basically, he has much more experience than I do. He's one of the only Finnish, I think, in the recent years, Finnish wrestlers who's been at least on WWE TV at one point. And he has won championships in Japan and Germany and all that stuff. Of course, I got thrown against him right away, and I put up a good fight, but I lost, and I learned. So, but I was proud to be in that tournament, that's for sure.
Well, one thing George Hackenschmidt can't say that you can say you've done is that you are the first ever Mortal Kombat Real World Estonian champion. No?
That's bloody true. And that's what I'll be defending this year at this Mangudeu gaming convention in Tallinn, Estonia, on October 19th, is the Mortal Kombat Real World Champion, because I'm not a champion of these virtual reality, whatever, play it on the big screen Mortal Kombat games. You know, it's the real life Mortal Kombat. So that's what I'll be defending against Arder this, I guess it's Saturday, October 19th.
All right. And another name you've been in the ring with is Stark Adler, one of the original Finnish pro wrestlers. So what was that experience like, wrestling Stark?
It's one of the most annoying experiences you could ever have, because he's got an answer to absolutely everything. And he's getting old, so, you know, he's slowing down, but he is one of the most, on top of annoying, he's one of the most calm people you'd ever get into the ring with. But I was at least able to get him super duper pissed off, and he made a few mistakes, and I almost got him if the referees were not always constantly against me here. But Stark Adder, he is an enigma and a pro wrestler like no other, and very annoying to try to grapple with. So, but I'll give him props, because he's one of the founding members of Finnish pro wrestling. So, you know, I do feel that I have the badge of honor that I think the only wrestler that I haven't wrestled in Finland that kind of made the sport is the Rebel Starbuck. I've wrestled him in training, you know, and there's no doubt the guy is as good as good gets. But you know, let's see. I might have him then for the belt, and that means quite a bit more in the future.
Why do you think that it hasn't happened yet between you and Starbuck?
Well, I know Starbuck very well. We used to run a podcast called Shooting the Shizat, and basically just talking about pro wrestling. And so he trained me. He's gotten me loads of opportunities. He's basically introduced me to a lot of people all around the world. And I owe him a hell of a lot. But I know that he's also big on the traditional way. So if you think about how it's done in Japan, you become like a young boy. You know, you're basically not allowed any flashy gimmicks. You cut your hair down, you wear the black trunks. Everybody's got the same trunks, same boots, same hairstyle, same move set. You're not allowed to do nothing but a body slam, a Boston Crab, and one other thing I can't remember now, but at least you're very limited. Yeah, dropkick, there you go. And you have to figure yourself out with basically as little amount of tools as possible. You know, then you go on your excursion, you find yourself as a wrestler, and you come back and you know, try your own there. So there's this kind of like, how would you say, this journey to become worthy in a way. And I think Starbuck, he sees, especially the people he's trained, that he wants everybody to go through that journey. And he's only become the champion last December, I think. I can't remember, or it was in November. And I know he had rematches and a few big foreign names come in and challenge him. So he's definitely had his plate full. But I do believe that it's it's high tide for some of his homegrown talent, like myself, TT Suosalo. I think, guys like Mika Forstrom, the boxer, who I've decimated many times, and that maybe they can wait in the corner. But I think there's going to come a time soon when this homegrown slam wrestling originals will be, I guess, ripe and ready to take that title off the big man.
All right. Well, other than Estonia that you wrestled in, you've actually wrestled in Sweden as well, I believe for Stockholm Pro Wrestling.
Yes. Yeah.
What was that experience like wrestling in Sweden compared to, Finland?
It's strangely enough a very different experience. I mean, I have wrestled in Switzerland, Germany, Netherlands, UK, as in Wales and England, Canada even. So, I have quite a few countries now under my belt. And Sweden, the crowd for Stockholm wrestling, they are rabid. And they just don't know how to shut up. So, and I'm a guy who likes to concentrate when I wrestle. So when people are yelling and screaming, it does definitely annoy me. And Stockholm wrestling, the fans in Sweden are some of the loudest that I ever wrestled in front of. And I was in the Capital City Carnage tournament for my first outing in Sweden, and I went right to the finals, and they have a fella named Ozzy Miller who ended up winning the whole thing. But I definitely blame the fans, because every chance they got, I was called everything under the sun. There was no, I guess, insult that you couldn't imagine that wasn't thrown at me that night. And it eventually, I think that was the home field advantage that turned the tide. But I have a lot of plans. I've been there. I've been back a few times, but I have a lot of plans to go back and avenge that loss against Ozzy Miller. So I really enjoy wrestling in Sweden. Stockholm Wrestling is a fine promotion. There's Gothenburg Pro Wrestling. I think they have changed their name to Svensk Wrestling, and they are amazing as well. So there's a lot of places to go and wrestle in Scandinavia, and let's see. But I would say that Swedish fans are loud and annoying more than any other European fans that I've been in front of.
Now, I did come across this while you came across this while you were in Sweden. Can you tell us about the statue of piss?
This statue is actually in Helsinki, that I believe the one you're talking about, and okay. It's right at the harbor where the boat goes off to Sweden. And I have no clue who the artist is, but it's known as the ugliest statue in the world. And if you go, you can look in through my Instagram, find that promo where I took these boys over there to Sweden. Yeah, that statue is, to me, represents your native Swede. So just go check it out.
You could say that it was bizarre, to say the least, which is a great segue into Dylan's bizarre adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Well, you see, before I was a pro wrestler, I was a touring musician with many bands for many genres. I played with jazz pop bands all the way to Celtic metal and sleaze rock and, all kinds of things in between, horror, punk, and whatever. But So I have toured all over the world: Japan, Australia, Brazil, Europe, United States, Canada, India. So I'm working on going down to Africa. Let's see. But in pro wrestling, there's been a few road stories that I probably won't be allowed to talk about. But something interesting, even going to Stockholm for the wrestling show there, the best and most fun way to go, I will say, is to go via boat. So we drove up to this city called Turku, or Turku, if you want to pronounce it like us North Americans. And you take the overnight boat there. It's about 18 hours. But it's like a cruise. It's kind of like a mini cruise ship in a way. You get yourself a cabin, and most people just go there. They drink themselves silly, wake up at about 6:30 in the morning, hungover, and then get off the boat. So, and I was driving at that time an electric car, and during that day I started driving, and people realized they forgot their passports, so we had to drive back, and then we were in a rush. We had to miss one charging station just because we needed to make the boat. It was about a 2.5 hour drive. And so we got on the boat with 1% left on the car battery. And I was, of course, inside sweating and basically ready to shit myself. Everybody else was on the outside basically shitting themselves. And I just said, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And I'm sure they got a charging thing on the boat. Of course they didn't. So as we're getting off the boat the next morning, again, everybody is shitting themselves. And I just let the car roll down the ramp. And somehow I managed to get us to, it was about, let's say if we're going to do feet for the measurement here, it was maybe about 200 feet until that I suspected there might be some kind of charging spot. And I charged the battery up to like 5% until, then we needed to get going. And anyway, it was this kind of road trip that we were always at basically under 5% battery on the car every time we needed to be somewhere. And yeah, it was fun in the winter. So it was, nice and cold outside, and a lot of those charging stations are outside. And so, yeah, there was a good lesson in how to prepare for a road trip with an electric car. And we ended up staying with our friend who's Brazilian in Sweden. And of course, he had a big Brazilian barbecue all ready to go for us. And it was basically just piles of meat, which was great. But then when you eat this huge, heavy amount of meat and then got to go and do a pro wrestling match in a few hours, yeah, everybody's going to basically probably be careful not to shoot shit themselves during the match. So, so I won't say if that happened, but I have been a referee in a match where I got pulled down when I thought some guy was basically needing to call the match because he got hurt bad, and he just told me that he shit himself. So, but anyway, so these are kind of things. These are the light stories that I'm allowed to tell you that happen on the road. So, and it gets so much weirder than that, and that's, like I said, that's pretty light.
All right. Well, can you tell us about your video game bar in Helsinki?
Yeah, so I've recently, in the last 6 months, opened a video game bar called Super Barrio, and it's in Helsinki in this area called Konepaja, which means basically machinery, and it's in a very old building where they used to maintain and build trains, so called the Train Factory. And Super Barrio is basically a gaming bar that It's the first to exist in Finland, where you have this idea of couch gaming, where I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and we used to sit on the couch with our Nintendos and Sega Genesis and, original PlayStations and things, and play alongside with our buddies and brothers and whatnot. And we felt, especially after COVID, that this kind of phenomenon doesn't really exist anymore. It's really difficult when you're an adult. Let's say you have kids or loud neighbors or neighbors that want everybody to be quiet, which is very common in Finland. So to play with your buddies, say NHL or WWE 2K or Mortal Kombat for that matter, until the wee hours of the morning, drinking beer and having a good time, it's very difficult. So we decided to try this out. We got 4 couch gaming stations, they're called super stations, with these really nice OLED screens, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and a very cool custom-built racing simulator, and a big library of games, especially a bunch of card games, party games, board games, this kind of thing. We got a kitchen where I have my own recipes for these unique chicken wings that you can't find anywhere else in Finland, and a great selection of drinks, alcoholic or not. There's something for everybody there, and it's not just a video game bar. We have old ladies drinking wine in the front lounge that has kind of a small, art gallery with local, artists, and then there's guys in the back, playing WWE 2K and yelling and screaming. So it's everything for everybody. Mario Kart tournaments. We got a Street Fighter 6 tournament coming up. FIFA, all these kind of things. We try to focus on community, try to bring the community together, new people meeting each other. In Finland, as a foreigner, it's really hard to meet new people. The Finnish style is very reserved, so very quiet people, where for people from North America, for example, like Canada, we like to talk a lot. So it's kind of the opposite of the Finnish style. So to try to meet new people in Finland is a bit difficult. So this is kind of part of the goal. It's a meeting place. You can go there, you can get a free drink of water, and play a card game with your buddies. You don't need to pay anything, you just come there and hang out. And it's so far working. People are getting together, coming together, meeting each other, and it's doing what we wanted it to do. And I'm really proud of it. Super Barrio, you can find it on Instagram, superbarrio.com. As well, Facebook, and Super Barrio Helsinki, because there is one in Glasgow. It's not us, but I've had a few emails from, British people asking how do they get to us, and I said, well, you got to take a flight. So, but Super Barrio Helsinki, you'll find it with that, and if you ever get a chance to visit Finland, then definitely do yourself a favor and visit Super Barrio.
Hell yeah. Now, can you tell us if there's any meaning to your tattoos?
Sure. My tattoos all have meaning. So I happen to be a descendant of a Welsh family, and my name is Dylan, named after this Welsh poet Dylan Thomas. He famously wrote this poem, "Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night." And I read that poem when I was maybe 12, and I noticed that the author's name was Dylan. I had no idea about that story, that it was my namesake, if you will. And I brought it home for, we had to choose a poem for school from this book, and I chose that just because of the name. And I showed it to my mother, and she said, "Oh yeah, that's who we named you after." And I really got interested. And that poem, if you've never read it, I would say again, do yourself a favor. It's very powerful, and the words are, you might get lost in a lot of the meaning because it's quite old as well, but the essential vibe is do not go gentle into that good night, rage against the dying of the light. And to me, it spoke to me so heavily that basically don't give up, don't die without fighting with everything you absolutely have in your body.
Right.
And that's been my in a way, I'm not a big mantra guy, but that's been my kind of thing that's in the back of my head all the time. When I try something, I have to do it as full out as possible. It's kind of the reason why when I started pro wrestling, I started being a referee, because I knew if I go straight into it, then I'll be doing like the craziest shit immediately. So I wanted to ease myself in and become the best referee. And then, when the timing was right, because I feel like when you are a referee in a pro wrestling match, you're kind of a spectator, but then you're not at the same time. So you get this vantage point that nobody else really gets. And I think it's a really great source of, I guess, information about pro wrestling that a lot of pro wrestlers don't even get to see or know because they don't take on that role.
Right.
So I would recommend anybody who wants to get into it, start as a ref. But so the do not go gentle into that good night, I have that on the inside of my right arm, and it's kind of encased in this Celtic designs that are slightly Viking inspired, as well as this pre and post Christian Celtic artwork. So there's, when the Celtic people had their, I guess, pagan religions, they had a certain type of artwork, and when they became Christianized, they had that kind of classic knot work that a lot of people know right now. And the majority of the tattoo was done by Damon Rowenchild, who's in my opinion, one of the greatest tattoo artists that exists right now, because he's got a style that he uses only dots. So it's just dots. And he specifically invented a style called demonic energy wave, which is essentially improvising a tattoo while you're tattooing based on the energy somebody's giving up. It sounds all hippie, hocus pocus kind of stuff, but the experience that I've had with him is like no other. It's seriously, it's a he calls it the art of transformation, and I do believe that's right, where you go in to the session, as yourself, but you come out as a new version of yourself. And so it's interesting because you have to put all your trust there. You sit in the chair and he just goes and does whatever he feels your body is telling him to do. And conversations we have are fantastic and wonderful. He's a very interesting person, and he happens to be one of the designers of the X-Men movies, the original X-Men movies. There's the character Nightcrawler. If you go back and watch those movies, you have Nightcrawler there, and he's got these like scars all over his body that are these designs, and that's Damon Rowenchild's designs.
Wow.
So, yeah, he's fantastic. Lives in like a cottage in the woods in Ontario. So if you're going to go and get a tattoo from him, you got to go and get it there. So I got tattoos on my hands from Thailand, from the stick poking style tattoos. So it's the same idea, but poking with a stick, not a machine. And that tattoo on my hand is kind of like in a way, a good luck tattoo. It's supposed to be on your back, but I thought on my hand, where I'm shaking people's hands or greeting people or whatnot, I felt it's a better place for that kind of thing. So that's what I got there. On my other arm, I have a tattoo of this one band that I had with my brothers, two of my brothers, called Reverse Grip. It was like a sleazy rock band, and we toured in Brazil. And there was a fan of ours that basically gave us free tattoos all of a sudden. Was just, I'll give you anything you want. And, okay, well, So I got that, and it's one of the logos that we had, and then I had underneath it, I wanted to get fuck the police, because we had a real hard time with the government and police when we did this tour of Brazil. They were total dicks to us. I wanted to get it in Portuguese, fuck the police, but he told me, well, if the police see that, they'll probably beat the shit out of you and kill you. So maybe get something else. And I was like, all right, how about just fuck the system? And he was like, yeah, the system. Yeah, system's cool. So I got this Fotosio Sistema on my arm, the inside bicep. So, and that's, those are basically the idea of the tattoos. The ones that I got from the barbed wire are a bit different. So you know that story already.
Right. Alright. Now it's time for the colossal question. Let's say they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
Well, that is a colossal question, eh? All right. So I grew up with many different types of music, but I will say that probably the first song on that soundtrack is going to be Everything You Know Is Wrong by Weird Al Yankovic. So
okay,
this was an album. I think it was the first CD I actually bought was Bad Hair Day by Weird Al, and that has Amish Paradise, if anybody's a Weird Al fan. But I was huge Weird Al guy in grade school. That's where I learned about popular music. So Everything You Know Is Wrong. Then I would say you would get on there, you would have this old school jazz tune called Take 5. It's basically a very standard jazz tune. Probably everybody's actually heard it, but never realized what it is. It would either be that, Take 5, or Soul with a capital S by Tower of Power. Is a huge funk group from California, actually from Oakland, California. That's one of my biggest influences on the drums, is David Garibaldi from Tower of Power. But one of those, and then it would be this song by my all-time favorite band, Canadian band from Windsor, Ontario, called Propaganda. And they're a very killer thrash punk group that has a tune called A Speculative Fiction. And basically that's, and no offense to you Americans, but the song is about Canadians having their own identity and to kind of reject that that kind of impulse to be Americanized by the United States culture, that Canada should hold on to what makes it Canadian and not just be kind of engulfed in those American corporate ideologies and things like that. So but A Speculative Fiction is a unbelievable song, lyrically, musically. If you don't understand English, it doesn't matter. It's just a fantastic song. The whole album is called Potemkin City Limits by Propaganda. It's fantastic. One of the best albums I would say ever written from front to back. But the first track on there is called A Speculative Fiction. So let's say Everything You Know Is Wrong, Weird Al. Let's say Soul with a capital S, Tower of Power, and then A Speculative Fiction from Propaganda.
All right. Solid 3 picks to say the least. Now that we have the soundtrack down, every movie has first you get the soundtrack down, then you write the script, and then you go to casting. Who plays Dylan? And you can't say yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
Yeah. Who plays me? Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I'd be tempted to say another Canadian like Ryan Gosling or something, but I'm not that handsome. So, but it's if we were back in the day, I would choose probably Val Kilmer, but then again, also, I mean, he's not handsome anymore, but at the time. So, I guess I would be vain enough to say Ryan Gosling. Let's choose him. Canadian boy, he could do it.
Okay. And every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people significant to you in your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
Wow. So I think Catherine O'Hara, from, of course, Home Alone, Beetlejuice, that whole jazz. She would be my mother.
Okay.
My absolutely wonderful mother. But Catherine O'Hara, she's almost a dead ringer for my mother as well. And 2 others you're saying?
Yes.
Let's see. Man, bad with names here, but my best friend, he's I grew up with him. He still lives in Ontario, in Canada, and we did backyard wrestling, all that crazy, stupid stuff together. Who would play him then? I'll get back to that because I can't think. Maybe Eric Rowan. Why not from WWE?
Okay, yeah.
Big Eric Redbeard. He's basically 2 times the size of my buddy, but still it looks just like him. So why not? And and then the third person. That's really hard because, I come from a big family. I have 3 younger brothers that mean the world to me, and my older sister who also means the world to me. I actually have 2 beautiful daughters. So to pick a third person that's been super influential to me in my life, it's be quite difficult. But, let's say, well, I guess growing up, my dad was the hard ass dude who didn't want to support me in many things, but then again, at the end of it all, he became one of my biggest supporters. So, a lot of people have issues with their parents and whatnot. Of course, I had issues with my dad, but I do believe he had a hand in creating the man that I am right now. And with him, let's put Gary Busey. Why not?
Okay. Now, it's sounding like a great movie, a blockbuster to say the least, and you could pre-order the tickets now.
That's right. A lot of explosions.
Yes. Onto a controversial subject: pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
Yeah, I'm down for it. I had some this pineapple pizza bun with blue cheese the other day. It was damn good.
Okay, so very pro pineapple on pizza.
That's right.
What's your spirit Pokemon?
Lugia.
Okay.
Mm.
Now, we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? THUG.
I don't. It's the first I've ever heard of it, so tell me all about it.
T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for Jill, 'cause a Doug can't spell. We love the late great Tracy Smothers trying to keep the memory alive on the show.
I love it. I love it.
Weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview? Hopefully. Would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical Rock.
No, I don't think so.
Alright, Well, just for context, there's a wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a Rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
I do know Psycho Mike, actually. If it's the same guy, I very early in the early 2000s, I ran only for 3 shows a promotion called Extreme Wrestling Alliance in Toronto, and we had booked Crazy Steve and also Psycho Mike on the show, and I believe it was one of the first times he had been using the Psycho Mike thing. But yeah, that's cool. Why not? It's right up his alley.
Oh yeah. He just went up and started wrestling dogs recently as well. So soon he'll be wrestling humans.
Why not? Perfect.
On a more serious...
Wrestling can be anything. Yeah.
Yes. On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I think in 5 years, I would like to have Super Barrio doing its thing and possibly popping up in different cities in Finland. I would like, I think at that point in time, I will have slowed down with my pro wrestling career. I am up there in age, kind of the DDP of the Finnish pro wrestling scene, I would say. And but I do believe I don't want to leave the industry. And from what I have been told, I'm one of the best talkers that's out there in this side of the world. So maybe I will be doing some managerial positions, things like that. Why not? But mostly I just want to kind of help the scene grow in Finland and Estonia and try to get it as big as it possibly can be over here. I mean, there's not that many people, but you can get a real healthy small scene that just supports the shit out of it. So I'm all about that, and I'm all about the community and all about growing those kind of things. And guys like Arder, we talked at the beginning, I would like to see him succeed in the next 5 years to a point where, he's on a great trajectory, so those are a bunch of goals for sure.
And what is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what you are all about as a pro wrestler?
That's a good question. I would say that there's a few matches, of course, but if you can get I think it's been posted on Facebook at least, me versus Ozzy Miller from the Stockholm Wrestling Capital City Carnage for the title. That, I think, is an excellent match, especially for, guys of our stature in this neck of the world's wrestling scene. So, of course, I do think if you can find it, the barbed wire Bodybag death match. Of course, stuff that, we've seen like on AEW with these cage matches and things like that, people jabbing each other with syringes or slamming each other on cinder blocks. That has yet to happen in Finland, but hey, you always can work towards those kind of things. But the barbed wire Bodybag death match is something that I think people should see because it shows a different side. And this match against TT Suosalo, if you want to see some technical wrestling on this K1, I believe that is on YouTube, the Slam Wrestling page. And you can see a bit more of the technical aspect of what I can do. So you have three examples there.
All right. And if they are indeed on YouTube, I will grab the links to those matches and put them in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox for anybody that hasn't seen them, wants to see them, wants to re-see them after this interview.
Excellent.
And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Oh.
This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Bret the Hitman Hart.
Worst wrestler.
Oh dear. Jinder Mahal.
Your main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Man. I would say Owen Hart.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Damn. I guess it's Bret Hart's music.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Alive and well.
We would have also accepted tastes great on toast. Squash. Vegetable or fruit?
Geez, I have no idea. Never even thought about it. Let's say a gourd. I don't know. Squash isn't a pumpkin. It's a fruit.
Is fruit your final answer?
Yeah.
Is indeed a fruit. It has seeds.
All right.
New Japan wrestler
There you
Tai
go.
Chi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
The what's the trunk butt cheek ratio?
Yes, how much
I guess.
Oh, continue.
Yeah, I think it's it's up to let your spirit animal guide you through that one.
So to each their own.
That's it.
And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
Oddly enough, no. Not with a stranger.
And that is the correct answer. And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
No, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. And it was definitely a lot of fun. Sorry I've talked your ass off for over an hour here.
Hey, nobody is listening to hear me talk. It's the Dylan Broda show on Wrestling with Entertainment.
That's it.
And once again, where can we find you on social media and your merchandise?
Yeah, you can check out ProWrestlingTees.com. OHSNAP, it's Backbreaker Broda's crap. You can just search Backbreaker Broda and you'll find it. And just search Backbreaker Broda anywhere on the internet and you'll find me. Hashtag @Backbreaker Broda, and I'm there.
And you don't have to type it into your Google machine. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Buy a damn shirt.
That's it.
Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment. But on YouTube and Castbox, this is sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us next Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews. And follow the show at Wrestling with E, but on X, Thread, and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, when I say Wrestling with, you say entertainment, okay?
Got it.
For our special guest Dylan Broda, Coleco Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment. Oh, snap.
Hey, folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show. Support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.